I don't know, is that weird? I was just sitting here telling them I'm tired and telling them all kinds of stuff they didn't really need to know about me. So I'm glad you guys are here now.
Wow. I believe that Terry Carter and Austin Stoker, you met on the set of Parrish or in conjunction with the movie Parrish, is that correct?
That's
right.
correct.
That's 1962, is it?
60 something.
No, wait a minute. Before that.
We were so young, I can't remember.
Oh, long before. Wait a minute. Wasn't it? It was in the 50s, like 50. What does it say on the? What's that? When was that?
Parrish?
It's 50 something. 56. 56.
Here, 57.
55, 50, or something like
Somewhere
that.
right there.
That's when we met.
It was in the 50s.
Yeah. I know I saw you guys together on an episode of McCloud,
Oh yeah. Okay.
oddly enough.
That was after we grew up.
Yeah, that was a little while later, but I do remember you working
Yeah,
together.
he was much younger at the time.
I look at the fact that we've been doing this show almost 20 years, and everyone who's been with me, we were all like, in our 30s, and we're like, oh my God, now we're, are we really been doing this 20 years? Why? We just keep getting older. Yeah, that's true. Well, okay, we can do that. I wish it really paid a little better, but we're not going to talk about that. I have fun doing it.
I understand that somebody finally stood up and said, for 20 years you've been doing this and you haven't had Austin Stoker?
Actually, the funniest Austin Stoker story, I think I told Austin and his wife the other day. A guy came up to me and he tells me, he goes, what's his name? And I said, Austin Stoker. And he goes, no, that's a character he played. And I was like,
he's right.
No, he's just got a cool name. He's played characters with duller names, but that's his real name. I just thought it was like amazingly funny. I'm like,
What kind of a parent names a child Austin?
Well, now Austin Stoker, you're pretty much the only known actor in this country who's originally from Trinidad. That's an interesting path to come from Trinidad to become the big American movie star that you are. Do you want to describe that process and how that happened?
I think that I have to blame that on my mother, because as a child, my mother was a moviegoer, and she would take me to the movies. My father died when I was about 11 years old, and she never looked at another man. And she would take me to the movies with her every time she went to the movies, which was quite often. She loved the movies. And she was the one who spoiled me in wanting to be an actor, and be to the movies so often. And I won't tell you how old I am, so let's forget about that part.
You're lucky she couldn't have taken you to the ballet or something.
No, ballet? No, I was a boy. So she wouldn't think of
Yeah,
so she wouldn't think of that.
So your mom took you to the movies and you ended up a movie star? I mean, I think you skipped a few steps in that.
That's
that
true.
story
Yeah,
there. I mean, like, how did you get from point A to point B?
sort of a roundabout way.
Yeah, well, it's
Well, first
an
of all,
interesting story.
I'm talking about the fact that this is not in the United States. This is in the Caribbean, in a country called, a little island called Trinidad, which is known as the land of Calypso. And my mother was such a movie fan that she would take me to the movies, at least once a week. And that's why I got this crazy bug, I want to be an actor. And then when friends would talk to her and say, grown-ups have a way of asking a child, especially if you're a boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? And before I can answer, she would chime in with, he said he wants to be a movie star, which I never said. That was her idea. But that's where I got the bug, growing up in the Caribbean.
Yeah, but then in a roundabout way, you wound up being an entertainer, a musician.
Yeah, exactly.
And wasn't it Jeffrey Holder?
Jeffrey
Troop?
Holder, yeah.
Jeffrey Holder, people remember him?
Do they know who Jeffrey Holder is?
The Colinut, the young Colinut.
Live and let die.
Live and let die, yeah. I used to love the 7-Up commercials, though. Colinut, the young Colinut.
Well,
You
Jeffrey,
guys don't remember that?
Jeffrey and his brother Bosco, they had a group in Trinidad, a dance group basically. And Jeffrey got an invite to go to New York to do a show, and decided to take some of the people from the dance group with him. Because my thing was not being an actor, was being a drummer. I played the drums. Steel drums, yeah. Or regular drums. Yeah. And I wasn't into the dancing, just playing the music. And Jeffrey took me and two other guys, I forget their names now, with him to the United States. And I'm still here.
Yeah, it's true. You joined
That's
the
it.
service
I got
here.
drafted into the Army. I became an American soldier. and all that
Citizen
stuff.
and,
Yeah.
and an actor.
And,
So it's
there
kind of
we
a,
are.
an odd roundabout way to getting here. Getting your, you always wanted to be an actor, and it was a roundabout way of getting to that
First,
point.
I had to go and become a soldier first.
And then, oddly enough, one of your first feature films was Battle for the Planet of the Apes, where you were McDonald, which also had Pat Cardi.
Pat Cardi, yes.
Which we'll get to Pat in a
I
minute.
think
Who
he's
played a
here.
chimp. You played a chimp in the battle, did you not, Pat? Was that a
young chimp? To be
young
exact.
chimp? Yeah, but your credit does say young chimp. But that had to be odd because you were, a very successful child actor in a lot of different things. And then was that your first role where they like stuck you in makeup?
That was my second role on my way down.
Horror High being the final step.
You know what I'm talking
But what was that like? Getting
But
stuck in makeup as a kid?
my credit was above John Landis's credit, who was also in the film.
Yeah, really?
Yes, John Landis was in the movie, and he invited me to the premiere of the movie he was making. I thought, oh, this guy's a nut. He said, yeah, we made it with 16 millimeter. I said, well, what's it called? He said, Schlock. I said, no, what's it called? And then I saw it, and it was aptly named.
Yeah.
But there was something about Schlock. Have you guys seen Schlock?
Oh, yeah.
There was something about it. It was great.
It
It
is,
really
yeah.
was. But at the time, it was like, okay, well, nobody's going to like this, but I think it's kind of cool. And then, of course, he was on the other part of the crest. He was going up right then, but I didn't know that.
The gorilla from Schlock reappears in the Kentucky Fried Movie, which of course then leads into Airplane. But this is the first time you and Austin Stoker have hung out in person since the Apes set, right?
Right. We did Horror High together,
Yeah.
and then right after that, we did Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and that was it. We didn't like each other. No, that's not true. That's not true.
It was funny because like we say that these were two early roles for Austin, and Austin plays a cop in Horror High, and then went on to do many cops. It's like, oh my God, can I get out of the cop roles here?
Always arresting people.
I thought you did Precinct 13 and those other films.
Precinct 13.
Was that later?
It was after.
That was after Horror High?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, because when he came on the set, he was like the most, perfect gentleman actor. I thought that he'd been a big star all his life. We didn't have IMDb back then, so I couldn't figure out, what he was up to. But when he came in, he was as professional as anybody I'd ever worked with.
Yeah.
And I'd worked with everybody in Hollywood. I mean, so many different, people in TV. I was on a lot of TV shows in the '60s, Gunsmoke and Ben Casey and Hazel. 77
Sure,
Sunset
there's just all the
Strip,
popular
Raw
shows
High.
of the time.
Yeah, a lot of them. And so I worked with all those stars, and he was just polished as any of them. So I thought, well, I better, bring my chops up because the real people are in town now.
I sold in Precinct 13. An interesting thing about that was John Carpenter.
It was his first feature, really.
Yeah.
It was after Dark Star, which was his college film that they expanded, and before Halloween. And it's truly a good film. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, but that was one that you stood out in it, so that had to be a real nice role for you because people remember it.
Well, it was, but the thing that I can never forget is the fact that when John Carpenter had the film, it was not called what it ended up being. It was called Remember the Alamo. That was the original title. And after we did the film, it was changed to Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah, but Bishop, Ethan Bishop. It's just a good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good chemistry in that. The cast was well cast, and you had good chemistry in the characters. People remember the characters. So I like Assault on Precinct 13. We screened it here one other time you were here.
Yeah, what made my character special was the fact that this guy that I'm playing was not supposed to be a cop out on the street. He was working in the office, wearing a cop's uniform, but he was not a policeman, so to speak. So, and then he gets into this thing out there with what was going on, and this is how my character was supposed to be. I hope it worked. It was supposed to develop. He was thrown out from the office to dealing with the bad guys. And that was the whole point. And we had to work that out, John Carpenter and I would sit and talk about that and see how it should be done. But that's part of the job.
Sure, know your role, and it's your job as an actor to expand that
Make it
role
work,
within
yeah.
within your limitations.
Did we make it work? I don't know, I think we did.
Yeah, I think it worked very well, to be honest with you.
And so Terry Carter and Austin Stoker, you met on Paris. You were both in Abbey together, and of course we can talk about William Girdler. What was the Abbey set like?
What was it like?
Yes.
Well, we shot, where were we? We were somewhere in the Midwest, someplace
I'm trying
like
to think.
Strongsville or something like that. But it was someplace where they didn't do movies every day.
Pittsburgh, I think it was.
Where the heck was it? It was in the South.
Louisville.
No, it was in
It was in
Louisville.
Louisville, and then they shot some scenes down in Texas or something. I don't know if everybody went down
Oh,
to Texas,
well,
but it was.
Louisville.
And it wasn't in Louisville,
Louisville,
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah,
Girdler
yeah,
shot
yeah.
all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Right. And
Or a
most
regional filmmaker, yes.
most of the, say it again?
He's known as like a regional filmmaker.
Oh,
Girdler,
right.
all of his movies were made.
Yeah, they were all filmed around.
Yeah. Well, he made maybe 2 or 3 films before ours.
Oh yeah, he started out with all of his stuff was drive-in movies. Us who grew up in the drive-ins didn't remember.
But the interesting thing is that the people who surrounded him were not people with any kind of experience whatsoever. They were enthusiasts, and this guy would become a set designer, and that one held the boom, and it was a kind of a voluntary effort. It was not a professional set, and I found out to my surprise, yeah, you could say. Well, I'll give you an example. We were shooting a scene where Carol Speed, who plays my wife, who plays the title role,
Former Wasteland guest.
yeah, she is possessed, or there's early stages of a possession, and I'm in this room with her and William Marshall, who played my father, wonderful, wonderful actor in his day, and I reach toward her, and she swings around, and the powers of her body just throw me across the room. And of course, you can throw yourself across the room. It doesn't take big acting talent to do that. The problem is that the carpet on the floor was not secure. Now, if you worked in a Hollywood set, these things are taken care of. You got people who specialize in carpets, and you don't have to worry about things like that. But these guys, they knew how to lay a carpet. You want it this way or that way, and that was as far as it went. So as I went back from her imagined powers, I slipped and fell across a chair, the arm of a chair, like that, and broke my ribs. And of course we had to stop shooting. I had to go to the hospital. It was no big thing. I got a flexible cast, and I was back shooting a few days later, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But it was just typical to me of the kind of, I wouldn't call it amateurish, but it was aspiring approach that these people had to their work.
When you talk about a William Girdler film, William Girdler himself held the film together.
Yeah.
There were people there in every good intention, but there were corners cut because of budgets in the end. He himself held. But Abbey, which we celebrated here before too, seemed like there were a number of weird things. You broke your ribs, tornadoes came through town, where on a day of shooting, where, if you remember that, I know Carol mentioned it.
Yes.
And there was also a rumor that, I don't know if you guys can confirm these or not, but when the possession scenes finally happened, like weird things would happen, like generators would quit, and is that true, or is that like, let's make this stuff up because people will go see it?
You want to take that one, Austin? No, when you make a movie, you want people to notice the movie, and if you're making a movie like this, you certainly want strange things to happen. And if they don't happen, you kind of imagine that they happen, or you tell the press that they happen, and they happen, and it becomes an aura, and people take it seriously. This is my opinion. My feeling is that it was an ordinary movie with, had some good points and some bad points, and some good work and some,
It holds up well.
Yeah. So the whole thing about all of these things that kept happening on the set was, I believe, Bill Kurtler's imagination trying to get into the press. And it worked because he heard about it.
Sure.
And in fact, it was in all the papers. And I mean, I think it even was in Variety about these strange things that are happening on the set of the movie. But I don't.
Yeah, you go from the things that the accidents, like yes, my ribs got injured. Yes, a tornado came through. Oh yeah, then the generators quit. And so when the story's not good, when the legend's better than the story, print the legend.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that film, it does hold up well. It's never really had a major release of any kind. Fans have sought it out, and it's odd because it was popular here when we did it, and it was and like I say, it's just it's weird how some films like that never show up, and yet people find out about it. Word of mouth, they talk about it, and especially during the old VHS days, it seems like everything was just, you could find something, make a copy for somebody, and boom, it'd be across the country in 3 days.
Yeah.
So, but the film is a lot of fun, I have to admit it. And Austin, you worked for William Girdler several times. So he kept calling on you, and we all know why, because of you're professional on the set, and he knew you can get a good performance out of you.
Well, interesting that you brought that up. There was a police officer. This was it Texas? Not Texas.
No.
Where was it that we
I think it's Georgia, somewhere.
Anyway, it was not like New York City or anything. Anyway, there was a police officer who was a friend of Bill Girdler's. Bill Girdler was the director, and he would work with us on the set. And I always remember, Bill Girdler said to me, all the movies he's going to do from now on, I'm going to have a role in them. And I thought, right. And I got a phone call from this police officer who was in the first movie that we did. He was working on the set. And he said, Austin, are you sitting down? I said, what? I have some news for you. I said, what's the problem? Bill Girdler died.
He was scouting the location.
He was scouting location.
Helicopter
crash.
Helicopter crash. And that was after, Abby there, and then another unsung, if you can ever find it, it's so hard to find. It was originally called The Zebra Killer. And, but it was another cop role, but different, a little different role for Austin, and he had some hilarious lines in it too that were, I don't know, they were not intentionally funny, but they were funny because they were in character.
Well, the Zebra Killer, we were talking about this earlier, Austin Stoker and I, about how he had this ability to keep a straight face when saying some of the craziest lines in film history. And the Zebra Killer, at least in my opinion, the Zebra Killer contains possibly the best line in all of the blaxploitation movies, which is when Austin Stoker
smokes little tiny cigars.
Smokes little cigars, and then when the partner asks Austin Stoker's character, "Why do you smoke those things?" What do you say? What's your line?
No, he ran out.
No, but he's going to say the line. He's smoking a cigar, and what does he say to you?
I don't remember.
What do you say? He says, "Why do you smoke those things?" And he says, "Why do you smoke those things?" And you say, "What?"
I don't remember what.
Because cigarettes are white.
I thought he ran out and offered him a cigarette.
Because cigarettes are white.
Those, they're too white. It was just funny because you kept a straight face, stayed in character, and you're like, why is that?
I didn't write that line.
No, but it's funny because it just came off so straight. If he remembered it, he didn't want to say it. And it is funny. It is a good movie, though. It is actually a pretty good film. And it's another lost one. Unlike, since we're talking about Girdler and Austin Stoker, of course, he was in Sheba Baby with Pam Grier, which was, she did a lot with Jack Hill and everything, which we'll get to Terry about. But that was his Pam Grier film. It's also a very good film. Had a great cast in it.
Dorville Martin's in it, of course.
My Pam Grier story.
And
I was on a bus one day, and it's a public bus, and I'm holding onto the thing, and there's a guy standing next to me, and the guy's looking at me like this, and he says, I said, what's the matter? He said, you got bragging rights, brother. What are you talking about? He said, you've been in bed with Pam Grier.
but in that movie, too, you also had a great name. You were like Brick Williams.
I couldn't believe it.
That's fine. Well, I mean, like, and then we move one guest down to Terry, and Terry was in one of Pam's, one of Jack Hill's best films. He was in Foxy Brown.
I thought you were going to say I was in one of Pam's beds.
I was going to say, so, I'm
is
surprised
also
you
true.
don't have the same story about the bus. We both got bragging rights, brother.
Bragging rights.
But yeah, Foxy Brown, Jack Hill's been here as a guest, of course, too, and that's one of his. All of his films they're like Girdler films. They're all enjoyable. He never really made a bad film. The only problem is his all got out, so people know him a little better than some of them. But how was your experience working? Both of you guys could tell me what was Pam Grier like to work with? She had to be sweet, because I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything bad about her.
No, she was very nice to work with. I mean,
I agree.
She, never tried to be anything more than what she was. She was a new actress, a young actress. She hadn't been, working all over the place.
Extremely attractive.
Yeah, she was, very attentive, and ready to learn as much as she could.
And malleable.
along the way.
She-
Yeah. Very nice to work with.
Yeah, guys have any Pam Grier stories, or it was just a pleasant experience all around, and we made a movie together?
I can't think of a Pam Grier story. I don't really have any. No, not really.
Strangely enough.
That's good and bad, though.
Yeah.
It was a pleasant experience, because when it comes to some of these things, you tend to sometimes only remember the bad experiences, or the really funny things that happen.
Things that happened off the set without her, like the guy on the bus.
Yeah,
To me, but you got bragging right.
Yeah, which is still kind
I
of
said, what are you
funny.
talking about? He said, you've been in bed with Pam Grier, boy.
Yeah, I just find it funny, because we've had a number of people work with her, and nobody really says anything bad about her, which is wonderful. I mean, we can all, I'd like to tell her that someday.
Yeah.
15 people on my stage and not one bad word.
Well, Terry Carter has to be the only actor who can say he was in both Benji and a film by Euroslee's auteur Tinto Brass.
Oh my God.
So you go from Tinto Brass to Benji. That's really. So what was Tinto
That had to
Brass?
be the film's attraction. He's talking about attraction.
Yes.
Late '60s, a comedy. I don't know, a little
No.
weird
But
to be a
to
comedy.
get to
but-
work with Tinto Brass is really something.
But it covered a lot of taboo topics of the
Yeah.
time too.
That's the whole idea with Tinto Brass. That was the whole idea, to do things that were verboten.
Yeah, ahead of their.
Well, he's one of them guys who wore his, he wears his fetishes on his sleeve and then
Yeah.
stuffs them into his movies.
He was a maniac. He really was a maniac.
Oh, he's been. Hey, you have any recollections of that
Well,
film?
no, but I'm thinking of Caligula, which I think is his most famous film, was it not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have memories that I don't necessarily.
Well, oddly enough, a lot of people probably haven't seen that film, but I have, and like I say, it covers all kinds. It's like weird. It's like this can't possibly be a comedy, because it's just like it's just one subject that was taboo at the time after another.
Yeah.
It broke down a lot of walls in the subject matter, I guess.
I suppose I could tell briefly what it was about for you folks. Yeah, first I'll tell you what the film was about. The story was about. First of all, it's an Italian story. It's about an Italian housewife who travels with her husband, businessman, to London, and he has business to take care of. And in the meantime, she goes window shopping and moving around London. And in the course of her peregrinations, she happens to spot this young black man, namely me, and she starts imagining what women sometimes are known to imagine about men. I never put it that way before. And she, and of course this guy, Tinto Brass, I got to tell you a little bit about this. Is a little out of sequence. He was kind of a maniac. If you saw Caligula, did anybody here see Caligula? Need I say more? Now, Tinto Brass, he really was. I think he was kind of a maniac, and he wanted scandal. He wanted to do nasty things. The whole idea of this movie at that time was, in the eyes of some, were kind of nasty, kind of out of the norm. But nevertheless, to tell you the story, she sees this young man, and she starts imagining a romance with him that was not taking place. And there's a scene where she's on the subway, and it's a crowded subway, and she finds herself leaning against his arm, and she goes into this fantasy where she's running naked in the woods, and he's running naked after her. I just have to tell you about this part. This was a rather difficult situation for me. I was happily married, and I happened to be, well, where can I begin? We shot this movie in London. I was living in Boston. I was, you can check this one out if you like. I was the world's first black TV newsman, the number one. And I got this job at WBZ 1965 in Boston, and in my third year, I was doing all right. I mean, it was an interesting thing, but that's a story in itself that you don't necessarily want to hear. But in my I was married to an Italian woman, a young Italian woman whom I had met in Italy, because before going to getting this job in Boston, I was living in Italy. I was in Europe, I should say. We're moving around and spent some time in Italy, and I met this young lady. We fell in love, and we got married, and she moved to New York with me. And then I'm giving you a little bit of background. So now the point was, we would go to Europe every year, every summer, see her family and stuff like that. And my agent was the William Morris Agency. I think you've heard of them. They have offices all over the world, at least at the time they did. And they knew I was coming to Rome, because I naturally make my agent know where I'm going to be. Who knows what's going on? So they knew about this film that Tinto Brass wanted to do, and they put two and two together. And they said, let's send Terry over to see Dino De Laurentiis, who was the producer of this movie. And I went and saw him, and I didn't know anything about the movie, and I didn't even meet Tinto Brass at the time, but I got to know Dino De Laurentiis, and everything was very nice. And so we ended up doing the script thing, and the script, it was a very strange script, because there were many ellipses in the movie. You couldn't really tell what was going on the screen, because it was all in the head of the director. Had I read what I was eventually being asked to do, I think I would not have done the movie. Not because I'm a prude, because I'm not, but because of I had this job, and I'm as a newsman, and newsmen don't usually go around doing stuff like this. Plus you add to that, I'm a black newsman, I'm the first black newsman anywhere, blah, 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 and it kind of loads the pressure onto you, of not wanting to step out of line. Am I making this story too long?
No, it's great.
Your time on stage.
Anyway, I just want to tell you a little bit about this. So, when I got the script didn't really say a lot. If it was a 100-page script, might have been 40 pages, I think, or something like that, and lots of dots, and all of it was in Tinto's head. So I want to tell you this briefly, that there's a place called, I have a habit of doing this at this age. I drop words. Not Windsor Castle, it was another castle. There's a place in London, in England, I can't think of now, but a lot of these families had fallen on hard times. These once royal, families, and they were using them for something else. And this particular castle and its surrounds was turned into a they had wild animals, and they had buses, double-decker buses, come through so people could see these animals running. And it was a crazy thing, was the way that the family, Woburn Abbey, has anybody ever heard of Woburn Abbey? Okay, well, Woburn Abbey is still there. It was the place where this happened. So they would come around on these double-decker buses, and they'd see, oh, there's a giraffe, look at that. And these are people who never saw wild animals. They're city people, So what they did was, he wrote some of the scenes, he wrote a particular scene in these woods with me chasing her, and we're both naked. And I'm a newsman. And I'm a black newsman. And I'm the first black newsman in the world, and here I am running naked in a forest. It was not something that I was eager to do. But you're an actor, and you have an assignment, and you want to fulfill your task, and yet the whole thing was very strange. So they made a glove with one finger for me to wear in the proper place, and I was out there. And it was very bizarre. It was very, very bizarre. Me running through the woods. She's a beautiful woman, incidentally, and she even looked better without her clothes on. And here I am. I'm running through the woods, and you see these buses. And the buses, instead of looking at the hunchback camels or whatever the hell they were all leaning over this side of the bus and looking at us running naked and wondering what the hell was going on. But and then there were some other trying scenes that I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm sorry you asked me a simple question and I got into a whole bouquet, and I'm sorry. Forgive me for doing that.
Okay, it's funny. Go ahead.
But the thing is, it took 12 weeks to shoot this film, all in London. 12 weeks. So I had to ask Westinghouse Broadcasting for a 12-week leave of absence. And they said, 12 weeks? No, Terry, we've never done that. We've never, ever done that. I think the most we can give you is 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I said, gee, that's not going to work. He said, Terry, what would you do if we turned you down? And I said, it didn't occur to me. I'm acting now. To him, it occurred to me because I knew I wanted to do a goddamn movie, right? I mean, I'm not a newsman. I'm an actor, and irrespective of what's on the script or what was not on the script, in between those dots, it was something that I wanted to do. So they gave me, believe it or not, Westinghouse gave me a 12-week leave of absence from my duties at WBZ, 1968. 67, I'm sorry, 67, somewhere around there. And so I went to London, did the movie, got to know a lot of nice people, ate some great food, ran after some naked ladies, or at least one. And it was a very strange experience, because Tinto, he seemed to have a bent about him that was very lascivious. I mean, I think he was enjoying the predicament that he put me into. The woman, she was a lovely person, but she didn't care. She's an actress, and so women often, in fact, men do get naked with people of the opposite sex, and they make a movie, and it's a movie. But for me, I'm in the scene with her in a bed, and my wife is right outside the door. And I got to tell you, that ain't the way to do it.